many big releases end up overshadowing the famous indies, those lesser known games on Android. I'll tell you, most Android games are less known, especially these offline versions. In this video, I'm going to show you 25 unknown games that are fully offline and free on the Play Store, so come with me. But honestly, I still don't know why Zero Fiction hasn't made it onto the Play Store, but of course we're going to talk about it here as well. The thing is, this is a game you'll unfortunately only find on TapTap, but you can download it there without any problems. It's a turn-based RPG where you play with a bunch of female characters. The gameplay has a slightly different style. It's not a classic turn-based system, but it's not idle either. Honestly, I'm not sure about the story because I ended up skipping that part, but in my defense, I skipped it because the gameplay itself is really fun. White Flame, The Hunter is another game you can easily call super hidden on the Play Store. There are a lot of things I like about this game, but the main one is definitely its difficulty. In the middle of so many super easy Android games, this one goes in a completely different direction. Another highlight is its combat system, which is really good, letting you use both magic and swords at the same time. And of course, I can't leave out the game's open world, which is amazing. Seriously, this game could be way more popular if more people actually knew about it. This is truly one of those perfect games that are hidden on the Play Store. It's really impressive. Wasteland story, from what I've looked up, it was actually made by just one person, which makes its quality even more impressive. What really stands out is the story and the choices you can make, which completely shape how it unfolds. At the same time, it has multiple systems for upgrading your character, along with survival mechanics, and this might be one of the most complete indie games you can find on the Play Store. Honestly, I don't even know exactly what kind of gameplay this game has since it's from 2013 and also feels a lot like a roguelike. Undead Slayer Extreme became quite popular around 2015 because of its gameplay, where you had to defeat tons of enemies with the same life bar, which is definitely one of the most satisfying parts of the game. But it can't really be considered a roguelike since it doesn't have upgrade cards. You do have multiple characters and different types of weapons to equip, and it's definitely one of those games where you can spend the whole day just defeating NPCs. As surprising as it may sound, this might be one of the most addictive games on this list, mainly because of how it works. Total Party Kill is also a pretty funny game where your goal is to get at least one of your characters to the next door. The interesting part is how you use them. For example, the mage can freeze your teammates. When they're frozen, they become platforms you can use to climb higher. The archer can pin enemies to the wall, helping you progress through the stages. That's the real trick of the game, figuring out how to get at least one character through a level that seems impossible. A free adventure game that you probably don't even know exists on the Play Store, but will definitely become your next addiction. The Legend of JAFFA Brownie is a game where you literally play as a brownie. He somehow comes to life inside his factory and now needs to escape to see the real world. Yeah, I know it doesn't make much sense, but it's an adventure game very much in the style of Super Mario Bros., so you can't expect anything too deep. As you saw in the gameplay, it's pretty simple. You jump, defeat some enemies, solve a few puzzles, and move on to the next stage. It's simple but very addictive if you want to finish it. At the same time that this game is addictive, it's also relaxing. That's what makes it really special. Let's talk about Spilled. The premise is simple. You need to clean up polluted areas, usually rivers that you're taken to. You do this using the claws at the front of your boat, just like you're seeing in the gameplay. As you clean, you start to see the environment coming back to life, with plants and fish appearing, which gives a really satisfying feeling. There are no enemies and no big challenges, but for some reason it's extremely addictive. You just want to clean every river once you start playing. A roguelike that's very addictive and also quite unknown on the Play Store. Let's talk about Elemental World. In this game, you'll learn all the elements, and that's not even the most interesting part. The real highlight is how you can combine them. For example, mixing fire with water creates steam, letting you defeat enemies a bit faster. You can also create things like mud, along with many other element combinations. But the game isn't just about that. Of course, it also features multiple characters and different types of equipment for you to upgrade and progress. And even though it's offline, there's a version where you can play in co-op mode with a friend. One of the hardest things is finding a good offline FPS on the Play Store. I actually found one and I'm going to show it to you now. Project Hazard works in a very simple way. You need to survive a zombie invasion while collecting resources for your team. Usually you're placed in a closed map where zombies come from all directions and your goal is to survive as long as possible. For your team, you might need to extract another character or even retrieve specific items. The game is simple, but it works really well. A game released in 2018 where you play as a police officer, and the coolest part is the freedom the game gives you. Police Cop Simulator is that classic police simulation game. It puts you in the role of a new recruit, where you'll learn everything from the basics to more advanced tasks. But what really stands out is the freedom the game gives you to be either a good cop or a bad cop. From taking bribes to avoid arresting someone to being a by-the-book officer and making society safer, this is a game that doesn't hold your hand. It's actually very open, letting you do whatever you want. A survival game that's much harder than usual while also being very simple. Let's talk about On My Own. In this game, you only have 5 inventory slots and need to keep your character fed while making sure they don't starve. As you can see, you only have a small home, and if you go too far from it and night falls, you'll probably die. The way you survive is by setting traps for rabbits and collecting as many resources as you can near your house. The game definitely has its limitations, but the early stages are very challenging. Recently, Oceanhorn 3 was released on the App Store, which is great, but there's also a hidden Oceanhorn you might not know about.
Defeating enemies awards you XP, that is, experience points.
Oceanhorn. Chronos Dungeon is a completely different version of Oceanhorn. While the main series feels a lot like The Legend of Zelda, this one goes for a pixel-style dungeon crawler where you can play with up to 4 characters at the same time. The story is pretty generic, but it works. It's about a lost treasure inside a dungeon, and you control a group of 4 characters trying to find it. For some reason, the game is completely free on the Play Store, and you can even play with up to 4 people if you have friends for it. Night Slasher's remake is pretty hidden on the Play Store. The cool part is that it's completely offline and also free. This is an older game, basically a beat-em-up from 1999 that ended up getting a new version and was also released on Android, but a lot of people didn't even notice it. The game has a nice story about characters dealing with a monster invasion. You have 4 characters to play with, and of course you'll be moving to the right while punching everything in your way. It's that simple kind of game, but still really fun and engaging. Moonraider is clearly inspired by Mega Man or even Metroid, and that's one of the most interesting things about it, and of course it's completely free. The game has around 1,000 downloads on the Play Store, which is really low for the quality it delivers. The story itself is pretty generic. Like most 2D games, you need to collect as many emeralds as possible and bring them back to your father, who's working on something important. What really stands out is the gameplay quality. Your character can charge attacks and jump in a way very similar to Samus Aran. It really feels like you're playing a kind of Metroid experience. Usually survival games take place in a post-apocalyptic world where you have weapons and lots of resources, but this one is different. Marooned puts you almost in the role of a more primitive man where surviving day by day is truly challenging. The map is quite open and you need to find a way to avoid starving in this environment. At the same time, even something like getting caught in the rain can make you sick and seriously affect your survival. That's definitely one of the best parts of the game. The difficulty, you'll die a lot at the beginning, but once you learn how it works, it's really satisfying to see how far you can go. Katana Kata is that kind of game with almost no story, but it still gets you hooked thanks to its very responsive gameplay. Basically, you're a lone warrior who needs to stop a group of bandits invading the place you're in. The cool part is that you're not fighting hundreds of enemies at once. Instead, you're usually dealing with 1 or at most 3 enemies at the same time. Most of them actually have a real chance of killing you if you mess up, and that's what makes the game intense: combat, dodging and parrying. You need to use everything at the right moment or you're done. I guess sometimes you just want to play a game focused purely on grinding, just leveling up your character with no story or anything complicated. IRRUPT is exactly that. You start as a character with a wooden sword, and the whole focus is on fighting slimes, leveling up and improving both your character and your weapons. There aren't any difficult missions, but some monsters can be pretty tough to defeat. There's also a weapon system where your gear breaks quickly, which can be a bit frustrating. Even without a story mode or complex systems, the game still manages to hook you, even though because of its simplicity. Escape Underground is a game that will really hook you because of its puzzles, and it's definitely one of the most challenging ones on this list. I might be wrong, but I believe it was inspired by Limbo, both in how the game works and even in parts of its atmosphere and story. The protagonist, a robot, is thrown deep underground by an alien sentinel. From that moment on, he starts searching for a way out. The gameplay is also similar to Limbo, where you solve riddles and go through several challenging puzzles. It's simple, but it manages to be very engaging both in its story and its gameplay. There are two versions of this game. One is a classic 2D fighting game and the other is a beat 'em up, and the best part is that both are free.
Recovery.
Dual Souls features the same characters in two completely different versions. Whoever made this game is probably really passionate about fighting games. I personally like the 2D fighting version much more. It's simple but very effective, way better than those games where you just swipe your finger. But the beat 'em up version is also interesting, so it's worth trying both to see which one you like the most. This is the definition of a hidden offline game that's also free on the Play Store. Let's talk about Draconian. The only downside is its length. If you're not very good, it might last at most around 3 hours. The story is about a character who is living peacefully in his village until bandits arrive with dragons to attack. Not only that, they end up killing his parents and many people in the village. Sometime later, your character appears as an adult seeking revenge. It's a 2D platformer, as you can see, with a finishing system that I really like, and of course a great story. Imagine playing Diablo on your Android completely for free. A lot of people don't know this, but there's a free port called DEVILUTION X. There's not much to explain. It's basically Diablo in a more mobile-friendly format. The best part is that the people behind it really knew what they were doing. It's very well optimized for mobile with no bugs or issues like that. Honestly, even if Blizzard Entertainment made something like this, I don't think it would turn out this good. So if you like Diablo-style games, I highly recommend you give this a try. You can download Dead Effect from the Play Store, but I recommend getting it through TapTap, especially if you have a more powerful phone. Dead Effect was one of the big mobile releases around 2014, a game that came straight from PC where you had to take down tons and tons of enemies. It still holds up the same way and is fully playable today. A zombie outbreak happens inside your spaceship in outer space and you're the last survivor. The best part is the huge number of zombies and all the different ways you can take them down. Arcane Quest Legends 2 is part of a series on Android that already has several versions, but this latest one really caught people's attention. It turns the game into a 3D experience with a very interesting combat system, which is why it became more popular. Unlike the previous versions, here you play with just one character. You basically die and get recruited by death, and your goal is to follow its path, infiltrate wars, and change the outcome in unexpected ways. The cool part is that you go through different types of scenarios, from medieval wars to even more modern conflicts, and with a variety of maps. A roguelike that's very addictive and also quite unknown on the Play Store. Let's talk about Elemental World. In this game, you'll learn all the elements, and that's not even the most interesting part. The real highlight is how you can combine them. For example, mixing fire with water creates steam, letting you defeat enemies a bit faster. You can also create things like mud, along with many other element combinations. But the game isn't just about that. Of course, it also features multiple characters and different types of equipment for you to upgrade and progress. And even though it's offline, there's a version where you can play in co-op mode with a friend. And that is it. These were some of the most hidden and underrated games on the Play Store. If you enjoyed the list, don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye!